Hello there. Before we get started, can I ask you just to take a couple of seconds to help my videos be seen by more people? Below the video you'll see the subscribe link. Please click it to see more of my videos, and if you click on the bell symbol beside it, you'll receive notifications whenever I post something new. Even better, if you click the thumbs up to like this video, it tells YouTube to promote it to more people so they will get the opportunity to see some of the north of England and South Scotland's amazing heritage through the eyes of a local photographer. And even better than that, it costs you nothing more than a couple of seconds to do it, and it means so much to me. Thanks. Now to the video. My home, the market town of Brampton on the A69 between Newcastle and Carlisle in the north of Cumbria, has a quaint charm all of its own. But one thing has always drawn my attention ever since the first day I arrived in the town some 35 years ago, and that's the Witch's Hat, a folly on the outskirts of the town at the Sands, on the road to Lanercost. It has an amazing history, and among the rumours of what it was or what it is, comes some amazing stories. The real history is told in the book Annie of the Mill by Anne Dawes, but basically it's a memorial to the Countess of Carlisle. Built in 1930 from funds donated by the people of Brampton, it's a shelter, built in the shape of a gin house. On the top is a millstone, which forms the centrepiece of the roof. The millstone originally coming from the nearby mill at Walton, located around 2 miles to the north of Brampton on the road to Longtown. Built as a memorial to the 9th Earl of Carlisle and his Countess, Rosalind Frances, it has a dedication stone inside, sadly daubed with graffiti now, reading, "To George James Howard, 9th Earl of Carlisle, 1845 to 1911, and to Rosalind Frances, his wife, 1845 to 1921. In fact, the Howard family are still an integral part of the local community to this day. Now, I tell my photography students never to stop looking in the same place for different shots, especially when nature is concerned. Take a photograph of something one day, and the next it will look different. Light and weather conditions change. Indeed, even a small wait of just a few minutes can dramatically change a shot and create a whole different image. I finally got around to taking a photo of the building, affectionately known as the Witch's Hat, a couple of years ago. Don't ask me why it took over 30 years to get around to it. I suppose we often don't appreciate what's under our noses. It was meant as a test shot, at night, to play around with 3 new inexpensive young Nuo strobe lights, the 560 Mark IV model. It was on the doorstep and it just seemed a good idea. The shot I ended up with is something of a Marmite shot. People either seem to love it or loathe it. Personally, it's one of my favourite photos ever. So much so that I have a 36-inch print of it on the wall in my office behind me as I record this. What it did do though was to fire a project in my head. Although I'd seen this building for decades, it occurred to me I'd never seen it like this. Maybe there were other views I could shoot. Now, it's worth pointing out at this time what a gin house actually is. No, it's not a distillery. In fact, the Countess was opposed to the demon drink and would have been appalled if it were. In this context, a gin is an abbreviated form of engine, and a gin house was used as a shelter for a horse as it walked around, turning the centre shaft, which in turn provided power for machinery such as the aforementioned millstone. The building is a fitting tribute to its designer, Kit Nicholson. Sadly, this talented young man, the brother of artist Ben Nicholson, passed away at the young age of only 44 years old. So, what could I do next? Well, Brampton, like many areas of northern England, can experience some extremes of weather over the year. Let's see what it's like with snow around it. Brilliant. And so I waited for the snow to come. And waited. And waited. A year passed, then another, and one of the mildest winters of 20 years. And so, on a cold but pleasant day in February of this year, I took the camera out. Not to get snow shots, it still hadn't arrived yet, but just a few general shots to put this video together. After all, I'd waited long enough. It was mid-afternoon with a gentle, soft light diffused by the clouds, but with an occasional blast of sunshine. I'd never really looked at the building from the rear before, so a couple of shots of that was the order of the day. As usual, I got talking with a passerby, intrigued at what I was taking pictures of. It was such a nice conversation that I literally forgot to take any at the front. Luckily, I live just around the corner, so it was easy to return after a warming cup of coffee and a bacon roll. Remember what I said at the beginning of this video about light changing? Well, in just that small amount of time, the whole of the feel of the light on the subject had changed as we went from afternoon sun to early evening dusk. The medium cloud cover had turned into a full cover and the colour temperature had changed markedly. Never mind. It was a few days later when I looked out of the window on the early morning light to be greeted by a heavy falling of snow. I knew what this meant. A chance of my elusive witch's hat photo. I put on a warm coat, my hat, and sturdy warm gloves, grabbed my camera and jumped into the van to drive around to it. The shot was anything but easy to get. Firstly, the snow was being blown horizontally in front of the building and also blowing onto the front of the lens, wasting many shots in the process. My fingers were getting too cold to manipulate the camera properly as the gloves I'd worn were too thick, so I'd had to remove them. Then, just as I was about to get it, that perfect shot, someone came along, looked at me, and walked straight across the fresh snow in front of the building, leaving a trail of footprints in their wake. I'll not say what I called them under my breath. Hey-ho. I waited another 30 or so minutes for the next snow flurry to come and go, and I got it. Looking at the back of the camera though, it just didn't have that sparkle, that wow factor. What was wrong? Of course, on the night I'd shot it, I used strobe lights. So, carefully walking around the side of the building to avoid leaving footprints myself, I positioned a light behind the centre column facing backwards, carefully exited and took my shot. Bingo! A few shots of the inside and back home for a late breakfast. Now, it's funny how your mind can churn over the events you've experienced. The what-ifs. Could I have done something better? Perhaps something different? The brainwave to use a strobe was timely, but as the day wore on I realised there was one more shot I needed. So, late in the evening I once again went out to the witch's hat, now in darkness armed with 3 young Euro strobes. Now a little bit about these strobes. I love these units. Retailing in the UK for less than £70 each, they are fully manual but with a full wireless triggering system built in. Using the matching transmitter unit, it's possible to adjust the power and zoom remotely from the camera. I highly recommend them. Oh, and like all my gear, I bought them myself, so it's an honest recommendation. The good thing is that should they fail, and they haven't for the several years I've used them, I hasten to add, then they are still only around 1/5 of the price of the original equipment manufacturer's units. Very, very inexpensive and well worth keeping in the bag. I carefully set up the strobes in the same approximate position they were in when I took my original shot a couple of years beforehand. Again, carefully placing the strobe behind the column, I returned to my shooting point. Of course, that's where the difficulty begins. 40 to 50 feet away, the infrared focus lamps on the camera are totally ineffective. It's pitch dark. How do you focus? Autofocus has no light to lock onto, and you can't see anything to manual focus on either. A couple of best guess focusings were tried, but my lens is a focus by wire system without any range markings on it. So what do? Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. I took out my smartphone, switched on the torch on it, and laid it at the foot of the column, on the ground, in front, facing upwards. There was just enough illumination on the column to focus and the shot was taken. Better still, the phone created a pleasing highlight on the column base. Easy. So what's the moral of the story? Well, my main point is keep going back to places at different times in different conditions. I've heard so many photographers say, oh, I've shot that before, there's nothing new to see. Yet each time you go back to a subject, it's different. And of course, don't forget to look under your nose. Some of the best subjects are right there on your own doorstep. If you've enjoyed this video, then can I ask you to do a simple task for me? Below the video you'll see the subscribe link. Please click it to see more of my videos, and if you click on the bell symbol beside it, you'll receive notifications whenever I post something new. Even better, if you click the thumbs up to like this video, it tells YouTube to promote it to more people, so they will get the opportunity to see some of the north of England and South Scotland's amazing heritage through the eyes of a local photographer. Even better still, it costs you nothing more than a couple of seconds to do it, and it means so much to me. Thanks for watching.